Thank you, Himanshu. Thank you, Gaurav. This was actually a very interesting session. And we've got some good questions that have come our way. I'm going to start with the first one. Um, the first one is, what do you think makes Young India click with a brand? So, any tips when it comes to that?
Manju, I think you should answer this.
Is this on the question chat? Is it Young India?
Yeah. What makes Young India click with a brand? Any tips?
Three, four things. The first and foremost piece, since as an ecosystem, we're getting nicher and nicher day by day. So if I'm staying in Bangalore and I'm having an hair fall issue, and that hair fall issue is because of the hard water which is being served or which is coming on my tap in Bangalore. If a shampoo and conditioner which solves an hard water problem versus I'm staying in Delhi and some other problem is there on my hair and some other brand is fulfilling that requirement. So there are two different set of brands for two different set of problems. It's not the same brand by bigger global players in the market, Unilevers, P&Gs of the world, right? So a specific requirement. So everybody is looking for their own set of problems and solutions, right? They are not cool or they're not okay with a generic response or solution, right? And any brand who's building up on that is going to make it big. It doesn't mean that mass brands are not going to exist. Mass brands are going to exist, but the DNA and that root need to connect with a newer audience with that. So we work with a brand called Mamaearth, and the thought process that we build on is goodness inside. It's a mass FMCG company, but in saying that, hey, there is some goodness inside the bottle, and people able to connect to it. So there needs to be something which my consumer and customer able to connect either through a product attribute or through a brand attribute. That's the most important part, which was not the case earlier because that was driven by distribution. Now that's not the case. So whatever I'm going to see in a grocery shop 15, 20 years back, I have 3, 4 options: Lifebuoy, Lux. If I want to spend too much money, Dove, 5, 6, 10 options. That's it. But because of D2C, everybody in India has access to internet. And because of that, everybody has access to every possible brand. So it's not limited to what brands are giving to me. It's limited or it's limitless in a way in terms of what all we can get from the brand.
Awesome. Thanks. I'll move on to our next question. This has come from Milita Datta, and she wants to know what is the importance of short form videos in case of B2B product companies. So, Himanshu.
So, Gaurav, you want to pick it up or shall I?
You start, Himanshu, I'll add on.
So B2B specifically works well. It's eventually boils down to what kind of content you're generating, right? So there are platforms like LinkedIn where the short form video works fabulously well. But the way you need to shoot is, or the way you need to concept through it very differently. There needs to be some value add at the end of the video. It cannot be just entertainment. And that's something we need to figure it out because you need to add value. At the same time, it should not get boring. So when Adobe recently launched in an AI space, which kind of became viral on LinkedIn, people were fascinated by it. So the value add that people were getting out of it was fascination towards AI and the possibilities of AI. Correct. So what is important is, since the time is very short there, right? Duration of the video is very short. It becomes very difficult to add that emotion or an outcome in the short time frame. When you have a longer videos, you can build up on those pieces. You can build up context. Here, the chances of getting somebody who don't know the context is lesser. So you need to only focus on the people who knows the context. So somebody who knows AI, we're going to get blown away by it, Adobe and AI. Somebody who's not interested, who doesn't know Adobe on AI will not even know what is happening. Correct. So point number one is it's very focused. Somebody needs to have a context to it. Otherwise, it will not add anything to them. Point number two is you need to add that fascination or that curve of, okay, hey, wow, how good it is in a span to 10 to 15 seconds. That's not easy.
Yeah, I think a segue from your second point, Himanshu, very interesting, right? So, for example, a platform like a LinkedIn, the decision makers essentially are humans also, right? Even if one is taking a decision for a long-term annual SaaS contract or, a logistics, they're the same people who are, by the way, consuming short-form content. They're consuming stories. They're consuming social media. And your second point, Himanshu, in which can short-form videos create an intrigue in their mind as to what this service or product is all about. And then, of course, you followed up with a long-form story or, diverting them to your website with a detailed brochure or a person actually calling them up later once you receive a lead. But I think if one is able to smartly use a 10-15 second video to target and get the consumer or the decision maker intrigued, I think that is where the magic of a short form video in a B2B marketing, in my opinion, is.
Absolutely. With you.
Great. Thanks. Moving on, we've got another question. How do you foresee real estate as an industry leveraging on short form videos and create a win-win strategy with a blend of influencer network plus product?
Yeah, I can take that up. Yeah, very good question. In fact, I've worked a lot with in my previous roles in earlier companies. I've worked a lot with real estate companies, right? And as we all know, real estate spans from the very massy, affordable housing segment to ultra luxury, of course, that exists in all major cities, right? And across the spectrum, one thing that I realize is that all these real estate companies are interested in leads, and the quality of leads become important. But secondly, also there's a brand message that they want to give out to, right? So there is always an upper funnel play in the real estate companies or projects whatsoever. So for example, if there is a Five Gardens Matunga project coming up by Godrej, chances are that if you throw up short, quirky, interesting 15 seconders to your prospective audience, chances are those people will click, come to your website, study more, and possibly visit your place. There is also now capability in our short form videos wherein we are building on getting leads. So, for example, if you're watching a Godrej 15 seconder, there could be a link that says no more, and it autofills some of the information that we already have, and hence the marketer gets to follow up on those interested people. But I think even for a serious and high value category like real estate, again, to generate that intrigue in a short duration of time in a generation whose attention span is constantly decreasing, I think is very, very critical. And that's where short form videos play an important role, even for such a category.
Great. Himanshu, would you like to add anything?
I think it's pretty much covered to it.
Great. So we'll move on to our next. We have a question about the disposable income from tier 1 and tier 2 cities. So what about the youth players with more disposable income from tier 1 and tier 2 cities? Can they be targeted with Bharat's model of ShareChat? I guess that's for Gaurav.
Absolutely. So I think this is a very loaded question. I'll split this into three sub questions. Number one, I want to clarify that ShareChat Mod is not only for tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4. We are very proud to say that today we share Mod specifically, more than 50% of its audience, in fact, nearing about 70% of the audience is actually coming from tier 1, Gen Z, and millennials. And ShareChat, more than half of it is coming from tier 3. If you combine both these ads, we are looking at reaching out to the entire country. So that's number one. I think somewhere it came out that if you want to target tier one, how do we do it on ShareChat Mod? We have a big enough young audience, tier one audience on Mod. Number two, the second sub question that I heard, it is a big misnomer that tier two cities in India have lower disposable income. For example, and I'll back this up with data. If you look at the earnings of e-commerce companies, education companies, star companies in India, uh, fashion, lifestyle, beauty companies like Nykaa, all of them will tell you that most of the growth actually is coming from tier two country, tier two India. So whenever you are trying to sell a brand, a product or a service, please remember that while there is a lot of opportunity in tier one because of more exposure, nuclear families, and higher disposable household income. Tier two India is also now coming of age. They are coming of exposure. There is a huge economic growth. If the country is growing at 6 to 8% GDP growth, the tier two is actually growing at double digits, right? That's how the average works. So ensure that your brand, your product, or the service is sold to these, is reached out to these tier two, tier three audience. You could read about QSR category, right? The quick service restaurants. KFC recently announced that they'll be opening 1,000 new stores across tier two cities in India. Domino's is already a step ahead of them. Even if you go to a tier three city today, chances are you will find a Domino's restaurant there. McDonald's is also going down the same path. So across all the verticals, I think there is enough and more business to be generated from tier two, tier three cities, and that's where you should definitely target.
Thanks, Gaurav. I'll take up our last question since we're running out of time. Um, how can ShareChat and Moj help us through short videos for one of our education client who has just launched a new school? And how strong is our ShareChat Analytics?
Yes, so I'll answer the second part of it first. ShareChat analysis, the post-campaign evaluation, I think is very strong. It also depends heavily on how much signals is the client willing to give us. So as most of you would know that it is, things like these are not magic, right? They're very data driven, which means does the client have SDP or Pixel installed on their app or website? Is the client willing to share those? How strong is their own app network? But given all those requirements are fulfilled from the client side, we have a very strong measurement report. In fact, we partner with everyone from a Nielsen to AppsFlyer to ensure that we are able to give you the attribution analysis of who saw your ad, who clicked on it, who visited your web page, who installed your app. Post installation, did they actually make the first deposit, for example, in case of gaming? And then coming to the education line, I think education is a very good use case. The interesting thing about our platform is that we have both the consumer and the decision maker on our platform. So, for example, if there is a high school student who's looking for a physics wala tuition, in this case, the student is the consumer, the actual consumer. That 16-year-old is probably spending time on Launch. And there is a 45-year-old parent that is also spending time on ShareChat. So in fact, for education, both the consumer and the decision maker is present on our two platforms. And we could do actually wonders. So if you start with the upper funnel, top of the view, branding activities for education, and then followed up with lead-based campaigns, we could do that. And in any case, we cannot go into the details of the client that we're talking about. There is an email ID that we want to flash here. Anushka, if you move to the next one. This is selfserve@sharechat.co. In case you want us to get back to you with some specific questions and answers, some specific data, any help that you need, how do you register as an agency with ShareChat? How are you eligible for an incentive commission structure with ShareChat? If you're a small advertiser, how do you start with 2,000 rupees budget? Anything and everything, just shoot out a mail on this and we'll definitely get back to you within the week. Including the person who asked the education client question, just share us with more details and someone will either respond to the email or will reach out to you which means if you're comfortable, do share your mobile number or the best number to reach you at.
Awesome. Thanks, Gaurav. Thanks, Himanshu. We've come to the end of a very interesting masterclass session.